I have no fucking idea what this thing is
15
doing.
seconds to launch.
All right.
Places, please. 5 seconds.
The basis will be rye bread, Mother's idea. The simmer flame keeps the water boiling gently while the cheese is melting, so that Sally can go on to other tasks.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
Thank God it's
Friday and I wanna get a loco.
MoJo.
Cool, shake my shimmy, coco.
Friday, I'm free again. I got my motor running for a wild weekend.
Friday night and the lights are low.
MoJo.
Monday, I have Friday on my mind.
MoJo.
When Black Friday comes,
That's how I roll.
Thursday, I don't care about you. It's Friday, I'm in love.
MoJo. Adjust your mojo now.
Jump out that sofa. Let's kick it. Friday, Saturday, Friday comes, I'm gonna stake my claim.
MoJo.
I guess I changed my name.
Radio with an attitude. This is your Daily Mojo. Freedom Friday edition.
Well, what do you know about that? In a secret meeting, China has now acknowledged that they, back in December, were behind a bunch of the infrastructure hacks on the United States. Wow. My shocked face.
Yep.
The Chinese delegation linked years of intrusions into computer networks at U.S. ports, water utilities, airports, and other targets to increasing U.S. policy support for Taiwan, the people who declined to be named said. Now, this is in the Wall Street Journal. I don't know. I mean, how much faith do you put in, the undisclosed sources bit anymore? I don't know. Hard to say. But they went public last year, U.S. officials did, with the unusually dire warnings about the uncovered Volt Typhoon effort. I remember that vaguely. Remember that in the news cycle?
The Volt Typhoon?
Has a clever name, so they publicly attributed it to Beijing trying to get a foothold in the U.S. computer network so that its army could quickly detonate damaging cyber attacks during a future conflict. It's almost like the Chinese are dicks.
Almost.
Just saying. But we cannot do without their unnecessary plastic objects.
And they know that.
Are we not in the weirdest position? I mean, it's weird. Everything's weird now, but we're locked in this struggle with this country over power, and we keep feeding their economy because we want low prices.
Yeah.
Always low prices.
Yeah.
Which I'm there. If I can find it cheaper on Alibaba, guess what? I guess so what's the alternative? You decide that, you know what, I'm not going to fund these effing Chinese MFers anymore, and I'm going to buy my cheap Chinese unnecessary plastic object from Bob's Unnecessary Plastic Objects over in Arkansas.
Who's buying it from the Chinese?
China. Yeah. How do you get around this? We've put ourselves into this huge corner.
Yep.
And now trying to get out it's going to suck getting out of this. But that's what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to get us out of this corner that we have wedged ourselves into because we are a nation of consumers, not so much a nation of makers. And the weird thing is the makers are under attack. The Elon Musks of the United States. He's a guy who's making stuff in this country, who's employing U.S. Americans.
Yeah.
And they are all over him because Orange Man bad. Talk about we are right now living a Black Mirror episode. And have been for some time, which I did not know this, and I don't know how I didn't know it, but Black Mirror, the new season dropped.
What? How many episodes
I know.
are there? What?
I think 8.
Sweet.
Do not watch. Which one? We're not supposed to watch one of them first, and I can't remember which one it is.
Why? Why can we not watch it first?
I don't know. It just over at Mashable. Let me see. I'll put this over here so y'all can see it. I do have a question about Kelly Ripa and her vibrating glove. Why are you laughing at a vibrating glove?
I saw that headline on your screen a while ago. She didn't want to put it down. Okay. All right.
Well, why do you think she didn't want to put it down?
Well, because it's made her the happiest that she's ever been.
Yeah. What are you trying to say?
I'm not.
You trying to make it sexual? Is that what you're trying to do? Are you trying to make it so that if somebody in, I don't know, let's say Texas wanted to buy a vibrating glove, that they would have to show proof that they're 18? Is that what you're trying to say, Ron?
Yeah.
Do you know why the vibrating glove was created?
No.
No, you don't. But you will at some point during the program, as long as I don't forget to tell you. Mashable. This dropped yesterday. Black Mirror fans, be warned, do not start with common people. That is their warning. It's season 7 is out. 6 new episodes. And it says the season boasts. Does anybody use the word boast when you're talking to somebody?
I don't. I've never used it.
I can't think of the last time I said boasts. Now, I ran into this same situation when I sent David G a text, something about an icon, and he's like, how many times do you use the word icon? And so,
good point.
It's funny what triggers him.
Wait, Common People is the first episode.
Well, no, it's the first one in line, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily because it's not what do you call it? It's anthology, not episodic.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Is that the right term? Because you don't have to watch them in any particular order, with the exception of 2 episodes that they say play off Bandersnatch and the USS Callister.
God, I'm going to have to go back and watch them all again. It's been so long since I've seen them.
I know. When did the last season come out?
Shoot, I don't remember.
Wow, I wish there was a magic box that we could ask.
This is season 7 now, right?
Let's see you in magic. Hold on. Magic box on my desk. When was Black Mirror season 6 premiere? June 15th, 2023. Thank you, Magic Box. It's a good thing this isn't 1978, because that conversation that you and I just had, we'd have to, hang on, let me get some paper and a pencil, and we'll write a letter to TV Guide and say, when did our favorite show, Black Mirror, first appear on the airwaves? And then we'd have to wait for today's postal carrier to show up to take that letter down to the post office, put it into a big bag, and eventually somehow get it to the people at TV Guide. And then we'd have to wait like 3 or 4 weeks for the return, or they wouldn't send us we'd have to watch, the little column in TV Guide.
Right.
And you go, oh, look, they answered my question. It was June 15th, 2023. Holy shit, that's like 40 years in the future.
What were we talking about back when we wrote this letter? Yeah.
Right. Why did I want to know? Beats the hell out of me. But anyway, so it's been a couple of years since Black Mirror's season 6. And see, all right. Do you see how excited you got over Black Mirror being out?
Yes. Yeah, I liked it. It was a good series.
And yet, when we were talking about the Chinese people, the government of the China people, can we make fun of them now that they're dicks?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Can we do that stuff?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not doing it about the Chinese people here. Like Deuce 5 is going to have to give us a ruling on that. Can we now mock China because they're enemies of the United States? right? I mean,
but are they
that's fair,
are
right?
they
'Cause
an enemy of the United States?
Well, they just admitted they busted into our infrastructure.
Yeah, and they raised their tariffs again to 125.
They raised their tariffs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, much like in World War II, it was those damn Japs. We can't do that anymore. You can't call them Japs because, well, first you get confused between, you mean Japanese or Jewish American princess? No, I'm talking about the Japs, the slanty-eyed Japs. Can't do that now, but you could in World War II. It's all about the collective consciousness. So if China is now admitting to hacking into our schniz, can we now, mock them? These are questions. This is the reason I'm not smart, because my brain is filled up with stupid stuff like that. But no one gets excited about the China infiltrating our infrastructure, about raising their tariffs, which means we're going to pay more. I mean, that's what we do for a minute. It was like, damn it, stuff's expensive again. And then you move on. But Black Mirror, hey, what? The new season's out?
Yeah.
Let's see. When?
Yeah.
You think our priorities are a little effed up?
No.
I don't really either. Because after all, we have in this country the right to the pursuit of happiness.
We do. Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, is pursue that. The problem is, to pursue that happiness, we have to make sure the rest of the infrastructure, the rest of our foundation is solid and is right and isn't getting effed with, which it completely is right now. So we've got some work to do before we can, we got to finish our chores before we can go out and, play around with Black Mirror. Unfortunately, our chores are going to last until the end of our lives.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Be touched by the program by using the hashtag What I Learned Today on any of your social media posts. I'm trying to read one thing and say something different, which doesn't work out usually. What I learned today, follow us on the socials at Real Brad Staggs, at Real Ron Phillips. He never checks his social stuff, but that's
do.
okay.
I do.
No, you don't. At least I admit I don't check my email. But I tagged you in a post yesterday that you just
right, but I don't.
And you didn't even, once I even sent it to you.
I did. It took me a second.
Why? Why
took
don't
me
you
a
get,
second,
did you just say you don't have notifications turned on?
That's correct.
By the way, remember, when you download the Daily MoJo app, turn on notifications.
I have them. I have them for that. I don't have them for X.
What you preach. Oh wow, I can't.
I don't have them for X, dude. There's
this
so
is why
many.
We can't have nice things.
So many, dude.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Do you know what year
so
Black
many
Mirror
what?
started? Just asking a question.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
2011.
Been a hot minute. Damn.
Season 1 was 2011, dude.
2011. So I was in Nashville.
That can't be right. But that's what
it doesn't feel right, does it?
Yeah. Season 2 was 2013. 3 was 16.
That was the year I moved. I moved to Texas in 2013.
4 was 17. 5 was 19. 6 was 23, and 7 this month. Now, I will tell you that Black Mirror 1 and 2 were only on Channel 4 in England or United Kingdom. So our very first season, which was their season 3 on Netflix, was 2016.
Okay. It's almost like you're trying to communicate with me there, and I felt it, but I don't. So you're saying that we didn't see it until 2016?
Unless we watched Channel 4 in the UK, correct?
We can put a man on the moon,
am I missing
but we didn't,
two seasons of this that I need to go back and watch?
You couldn't. I don't think so.
That's crazy. Okay.
How could we have not have been watching it on...
I feel like you're trying to communicate with me.
I miss the good old days of there were 4 channels on TV. You had 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13.
We had,
and you didn't.
Here we had 4, 5, 8, and 11
Yeesh.
and 13 PBS. Yeah.
Stinky Biscuit on the X, out of the gate. Just tell us already, does common people have to do with either chink, schniz, or hacking? Right? By the way, I'm not sure. Deuce 5 is going to have to weigh in on the chink thing, too.
Yeah. So what does the story say? Why can we not watch Common People first?
Because it's, I don't know. It did, because I didn't want to
doesn't
read
say.
anymore. Once it said, don't do it, I'm like, I'm obedient to what I read online, and I will not do it. But if you really want me to look, I mean, I can.
I do. I do. See, I don't do.
Well, then-
I don't give two shits about spoiler alerts. I know a lot of people do, but I don't. Be
Okay.
warned. Do not start with Common People.
Moreover, the season boasts new tales that are humorous, equal parts heartwarming and heart-wrenching, as well as 2 sequel episodes. But before you dive into all the twisted goodness, according to Mashable, we have a warning. Don't start with Common People. It's tempting to start with Common People as it's the first episode of season 7. I mean, it's the first in line.
Yeah.
It's the one Netflix will prompt you to play first, but Black Mirror is an anthology series, so with the exception of those rare sequels, you can really watch them in whatever sequence you want to. But if you start with Common People, the staff at Mashable suspects there will be a consequence because it's hit several of us already.
It says
Slight spoilers ahead.
It says it's Common
I don't
People is
wanna
the
know.
first episode of season 7, but we suggest working your way up to this bad boy. Okay.
It's just a TV show, for crying out loud. How much can it affect you? I mean, really?
Have you watched any of them yet?
No. And I couldn't
will be
watch the
this
finale
weekend
of
on the way.
season 6 of Walking Dead because I knew it was going to be so rough there at the end. And you didn't watch Walking Dead, did you?
I probably watched that episode with Misty. Yeah. But I didn't
But
watch
other
the
than that, you
series.
didn't-
No.
Just don't talk to me. The official, let's drop the official log lines for season 7 on Tudum. Isn't it funny how you see TUDUM? What do you hear?
Ta-da.
Right.
I don't know why.
That's what it is.
Oh.
It's the Netflix.
Oh.
Tudum.
Oh, I got you. TUDUM. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It works. It's just like Phenomenon.
Phenomena. Yeah.
So the synopsis for Common People: when a medical emergency leaves school teacher Amanda fighting for her life. By the way, slight spoiler alert. I don't know. Maybe. Desperate husband Mike signs her up for Rivermind, a high-tech system that will keep her alive, but at a cost.
Man. That's the thing about Black Mirror is they come out with this super sci-fi could be real shit. That one episode of I can't remember the name of it, but it had Bryce Dallas Howard where it was
Social
social media. Holy crap, dude. Could that not be
And
real?
I mean,
Holy
you
cow.
walk into a place, if you had a bad score, people would look up because all your phones were linked together, I think.
Yeah.
You're like near field technology. And so you'd walk in, people would automatically know that you've got like a 12 out of 100.
The Orville did an episode similar to that. You remember that? Where they wore the badge and they punched the up button or the down button. They upvoted
that's
or
right.
downvoted. Yeah.
Yep.
That's nuts. That's where we're at,
That's
though.
that's where we are. Remember when you were without internet last weekend?
Yes.
And
I
your
thought my
Twizzy-
life was over. Yes.
And the one, from from that spot, the AT&T spot, how am I supposed to eat at a restaurant when I don't know what other people think of it?
Yep.
What are the reviews? Mom, it's just a phone book. There's just a phone number. I can't possibly do anything without finding out what other people think of it first. Without, what rating did Bob give it? Because I can't eat there if I don't know what Bob thinks. That's insane. What are you, crazy? And, all right, so out of the gate, a married couple facing a life or death decision is teased. And tech is often the launch, of course. That's the
That's
basis of Black
yeah.
Mirror. It's always the tech. Who was I talking? Oh, it was Keith. Yesterday we did I sat in for an episode of the Barfley at the mic.
We talked
Keith
about Roswell,
Malamack.
did you? Yeah.
Talk about Roswell. And it was, he said, I've not watched Black Mirror because he was, one of the first episodes of Black Mirror involved the politician having to bonk a pig. You remember that?
Yeah.
And he's like, I couldn't do it.
I almost think that was the very first episode of Black Mirror that I saw.
Did you like it?
It freaked me out. It really did. Because they really made him pork that pig. You see what I did there?
Say. Yes, I do. But after that, he said, I couldn't, I don't think he even finished the episode. And we'll talk about the Roswell thing coming up. But so they say, and often the launch pad for tales of tragedy in Black Mirror is tech. So you might think you know what you're in for, but you'd be wrong. All right, hang on a second. For just Rashida Jones, Chris O'Dowd, married couple. She's a teacher. He's a welder. Happy lives. They're simple lives until she collapses in her classroom. Shortly after a bleak prognosis is delivered, a sales rep for Rivermind appears to save the day. For just $300 a month, the middle-class couple can prolong Amanda's life, repairing her broken brain through a subscription service called Rivermind. Right out of the gate, I'm thinking, wait a minute, you got to pay like monthly?
What? Well, come on.
Can't afford this month. I mean, your loved
out.
one is going to die?
Yep, see you.
Within this premise, the writers combine the horror of America's healthcare system. Oh, boy.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's some truth to every one of these episodes.
Right, but damn it, are they all wokey and stuff? Because, don't ruin it by being woke. That's what terrifies me. But that's why I haven't watched, what's the one about superheroes on Prime? The Boys? Yeah, The Boys. Yeah. I've not watched the latest season because of what the producer came out and said. Well, it's always been about, people who support Trump and blah, blah, blah. Which you kind of knew if you watched it, but you just looked past it. But when they keep slamming it into your face over and over, it gets exhausting and you get tired of it. Yeah. So please don't F up Black Mirror. It combines the horrors of America's healthcare system and the unstoppable rising costs of streaming services to create an all-new nightmare. All right. You think tiered insurance is bad? Rivermind's ever-shifting terms of use and skyrocketing costs paint a not-so-distant future that feels soul-scorchingly
They don't want you to watch
plausible.
this because you're watching it on Netflix, which is doing what they're doing on the show.
Yep. That's what's going on. Bastards. James on X says, my oldest child is a year younger than Black Mirror. He turns 13 soon. See? Kids are a great way to remind you that you're old as all. Hey, y'all. Penny Girl says, thanks for streaming on Twitch. There's 2 of us over here now. Yay! 2 people on Twitch. Here at work, Rumble is blocked for some reason. What? And I'm totally done with YouTube. Great to see your pretty faces again. Aw, Penny Girl. Penny Baby. You can also watch on Kick, which is it's a gaming...
It's like Twitch, another gaming
streamer. Yeah, it's all right. Kick.com. And over there, we've got how you are doing. How is streaming going, dude? What's up? Are you... Eamon Braden is in there in the Kick chat room, and I'm starting to think Eamon might be a bot, but I'm not sure. I notice that you're new to streaming on Kick and you're working towards becoming affiliated. To achieve that, you'll need to have at least 75 followers on your channel. I'd be happy to assist you in reaching that goal by providing organic promotion to help grow your follower base and audience. This will enable you to get affiliated, unlock your subscription button. My Discord username is Jaime Digital.
Yeah.
Huh. And then he repeated it. So Jay Reed Jr. is over there. Happy Friday, boys. A great day to F around and find out. Isn't it, though? And Jake Lovell, suited and booted. Are we on the YouTube today? We could be. 'Cause
We are not.
we don't have to talk about the Byrna today. I mean, we can just say it, not show it.
Okay.
There you are.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to.
I did not start the show over there. We talked about it yesterday, so I just pulled it.
Did we?
We talked
Did
about
we?
not doing it over there because
Ever? Again?
Yeah. No. I don't want us to get kicked off of YouTube because we've got tons of videos over there now. I just don't want us to get hammered off of it. I mean, that doesn't mean that we can't upload the show there.
It doesn't?
No,
You sure?
I'm positive.
Oh, we do have a new sponsor on the program.
Yeah, that
Forgot to-
that URL does work now.
Well, that's not what.
Oh,
I'm
that's
talking
not
about,
that sponsor. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm talking about this sponsor, and Ron and I have both been on a quest to lose weight,
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
and we've been working hard at it, and it's tough. The
Well,
older
one of
you
us
get,
has. Yeah.
what?
Been working hard at it.
Have you not been working? Sure, you've been working hard. It's hard to lose weight. The
Well,
older you get, the harder it is.
That's
Which is
a fact.
ironic, because in
Yes.
some places, it's the opposite that's true, if you know what I'm saying. and think, well, I know you do. Anyway, sorry. But it gets tougher. And, Wade Robertson is out there all Mr. Chiseled and stuff. He's like, how come you can't do, why do you have to use the drugs? Why can't you use nutrition and exercise? Because you know what?
Exercise takes time, dude. Nutrition.
Well, isn't your
Takes
health
time,
worth
dude.
it?
Yeah.
It does, but it also doesn't necessarily, at least initially, give you the desired results. And besides, when you get to be as old as dirt as I am, and Ron is slowly catching up, you realize, there are some pharmaceuticals I'm behind. And it happens to be semaglutide is one of them, and it's worked so far. But I am exercising, and I'm watching what I eat.
Are you still
I mean,
losing?
I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Good.
down
Good. 30-something pounds.
35,
right?
36. Most of it in my left elbow. And I don't plan on being on this stuff forever. And, I don't know what. I know that some people have complained about side effects, but I haven't seen any yet. I don't think I've seen any ticks or anything weird. I mean, let me know if you see anything weird.
You'll take
about it,
that
because-
shot, even though you're not worried about the side effects.
Yep. Yeah, I will, because I'm doing it, number one, and number two, it's a compound. I'm not doing a brand name. I'm doing it at a compound pharmacy.
If it
and
was
besides,
named
I have
Pfizer, would you take it?
probably not. And the ironic part of that is probably that where this compounding pharmacy that I get it from probably buys it from Pfizer.
Pfizer, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I have enough cognitive dissonance that I can block that out. Because this is America, damn it. I can do it if I want to. So, but again, losing weight is important, and to be healthy, you want to be a little. I've always read it's better to be just a smidge overweight than it is underweight.
Okay.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. And look, I've got another probably 60 before I'm where I want to be.
Wow.
And what?
You'd be skinny as a rail then, dude.
No, I don't think I would. I don't think I would. No, I don't think I would.
Okay.
But don't rain on my parade.
All right.
Don't poo in my Wheaties. No one likes Wheaties mixed with poo. But anyway, that's why we would like to, just a long way to get there, and I apologize, but this is a brand new sponsor, and we would like you to please welcome the weight loss clinic here on the Daily Mojo. Is it gonna play?
I don't know. I want to ask you that.
Here, let's see if we do that.
Oh, ta-da.
Gee, Dad, you look terrific.
Thank you. Weight loss clinic?
No, honey, it's really nice coming home to a slender wife again.
Thank you, weight loss clinic.
Right?
Thank you, weight loss clinic.
What happened to the good old days, damn it?
Taste the honey sauce. Mmm, like I like it. Ooh, yeah. This is the Daily Mojo Friday.
Man, that was almost
What
anticlimactic.
happened to the
dude.
good old days when you could whistle at a good-looking woman and she was like, hey, thank you? Or you'd come home and tell the wife, hey, I'm glad you're not fat anymore. And she'd be, oh, thank you, weight loss clinic. That's so nice of you. Now you do that and you'll find yourself in the next county, right?
Oh, yeah.
Missy13 says, my daughter's friend is on it, Kick. She told me her coworker was vomiting. Oh, not on Kick, on semaglutide. Leaky bowel syndrome is just one of the many side effects, says Sir Rat Bastard. That's okay. I'm wearing an adult diaper, so it doesn't matter. And Wade Robertson, 44, eat good, get your hormones right, and move a lot.
Yeah,
No,
that
it's
whole
not the
move a lot
Ozempic.
thing. That's a little bit of a problem for me.
Why is the moving thing hard for you?
I try to move. I try to get up. My watch tells me to stand, but sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Just go for a walk.
Yeah, but that takes time out of the day to go for a walk.
Well,
I've got my ADD doesn't let me.
What's more-
I got more shit going on than the law allows.
and I understand that too. But if you don't put your health before everything else,
Okay.
nothing else matters.
Okay.
Now, everybody, again, we've been a little bit about the tariffs because no one really wants to discuss tariffs because, you know, for the most part, boring. Except when you go to pay the damn bill
Yeah.
for whatever it is that you are buying. And you realize, holy crap, the tariffs made my schniz more expensive, and now I'm pissed. Except when you start going back into the history of tariffs, and if I found this over at the Fordham Journal of Corporate and Financial Law, which, if you're trying to fall asleep at night, this is fabulous material to do just that. It was published March 17th, 2019. Title, A Brief History of Tariffs in the United States and the Dangers of Their Use Today, because they're dangerous. Dangerous. Which, of course, makes you wonder, Fordham University, would you say, with that headline, would you say Fordham University, which is where the Fordham Journal of Corporate and Financial Law comes from, would you say that they are left or right-leaning?
I'm going to say left.
You're going to say, are you sure? Do you want to...
No, I mean, just because most universities are.
All right. You're right. They are left-leaning.
Yeah.
So it starts off in recent years, and this is 2019, remember. In recent years, the placement of tariffs on imported goods from from other countries has become a much talked about topic. There's no doubt that a great deal of this discussion has been generated by President Trump's reliance on tariffs as a means of conducting foreign policy. I don't remember the discussion of tariffs back in 2019 when during his first term. Do you?
No.
I mean, he may have, but again, who cared, right? To an extent, the recent resurgence of the tariff as a tool of American foreign relations represents a departure from a firm commitment to free trade that has been a mainstay of American diplomacy since the end of World War II. Understand the value of tariffs in a modern context, it's useful to explore or consider the historical role of tariffs in the United States, also the reasons why the tariff was largely abandoned in the mid-20th century, and the reasons why some people believe it to be a good idea to implement tariffs today. And then you start to see, and things will go, The analysis reveals that tariffs in the modern era no longer further the same interests as those served earlier in our history, which were to raise revenue for the federal government and to protect American industry. Okay, that sounds reasonable, right? That's why we would have tariffs on stuff to fund the government so they can go out there and spend like the drunken sailors that they are, and to protect jobs here in the United States or to increase jobs. This next sentence is what got me. The federal government no longer needs or relies on revenue from tariffs for funding. Right? Why don't they need or rely on revenue from tariffs for funding? Anybody? Anybody?
IRS?
I don't.
Income tax?
Not all of you. What'd you say?
Income tax.
That yes, because they are bending us over now.
Yeah, yeah.
So, if they're going to bend us over, we don't need tariffs. Wait a minute. I'm seeing a flaw in their logic. While tariffs can be valuable in protecting American industry today, I argue that more focused measures should be taken before resorting to tariffs because they inevitably bring collateral damage to our own economy. You mean like the Rona and shutting down the warp engines? So it was 1789 that that Congress signed the Tariff Act of 1789. And they were, again, to promote trade, to raise revenue for the federal government. And Alexander Hamilton was a strong proponent of the legislation. He viewed the act as playing key roles in protecting the burgeoning American manufacturing sector from foreign competition and in promoting industrial growth over the long term. The long and short of it is that they're saying, well, because America isn't industrial, we don't make a bunch of stuff. We don't need tariffs to protect our industry because we don't technically have the industry. Hello, McFly, this thing on? Exactly. We need to start making shit again. Wouldn't it be nice if our country could make this stuff and not, again, have to go back to which country is that, Ron?
China. Brad, China.
You knew exactly from what I said right then.
I did,
That
yes.
almost sounded Chinese,
It was
didn't
almost Chinese. That's correct.
Almost Chinese, and not, as you earlier this week suggested, Siam. You racist. Siam. We are Siamese, if you please. So, it's interesting that these lefties over at Fordham are all about, we don't need the tariffs because we've got the income tax. And we're not trying to protect American industry because there is no industry. Those are two of the big things. Who wouldn't like to see the federal income tax go in the poo-poo can?
Yep.
That would be faboo, would it not? I would like that a lot, personally. And I mean, if if you are so hell-bent on personally funding the government, feel free to send them a check anytime you want to. I support your right to do that, to write a check to Uncle Sam for however many dollars you want to and say, use this to keep your wheels turning.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need your wheels turning. For the rest of us, those of us, who aren't stupid. Was that too pointed?
It's probably not pointed enough, but okay.
For those of you who are dickhead stupid, I can keep going, but I probably shouldn't. But it just does not seem like, with the, and I'll retweet if you want to read the rest of this analysis about the history of tariffs in the United States and the danger of their use today. I don't understand. Things are out of balance. They need to get balanced. I mean, that's the bottom line. Who's a good guy to talk to about this? Phil Bell. He's in the house, and we'll talk to him next on the Daily Mojo.
Taste the honey sauce. Like I like it. Ooh, yeah. This is the Daily Mojo Friday.
Wombat Mommy, the tariffs have been around for centuries. Andrew Jackson had a government surplus because he did tariffs. Yeah, I'm not oh, look who the special guest in the
somebody standing behind you there, Brad.
There is somebody. I got to tell you that he scared the dog crap out of me yesterday. But before we bring him in, let's go ahead and welcome in our Washington, D.C. correspondent.
The First Amendment lives here.
Freedom Friday. Oh, it's Freedom Friday. Phil Bell. He got the freedom in his mojo.
Your Daily Mojo.
Do you have the freedom in your mojo?
I do. I love this.
I knew you would. I knew you would. We're free in the world. Phil Bell.
Phil Bell.
Phil Bell.
We're gonna free the world. Phil Bell.
And Big Mike. Let's not forget Big Mike, because we
Shout
have
out to you, Big Mike.
Big Mike and Phil Bell here on the Daily Mojo.
That was a great intro song, Phil.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
They were up all night. They wanted to get it perfectly right, and they redid it a bunch of times. And the singers walked out this morning exhausted, but with that satisfaction you get from doing a job well, and they did it. So
Now,
congratulations.
Did they drink American Pride Roasters coffee to stay awake? Because if so, like that worked for me.
They were mainlining it. I mean, they found the vein. But I did. I got the box in the mail yesterday from FedEx, and Ron had told me before he said, "I'm sending you something." And so I unboxed. I was like, "What the hell?" And the first thing I saw was the smiling face of Donald J. Trump.
That's awesome.
And so.
He's a full 6 foot tall. He is.
Very cool.
But Trump is taller than 6 feet.
Yeah, I think so. A little bit taller. Yeah.
So that was the weird thing. When I put him up first, he wasn't quite as tall as me. I was like, well, that's weird. But I stood him on a box, and I put him outside the office of Beth E. Knott. And she did a little bit of a startle when she walked out. So then he ended up going into another room here at the motel. And even though I knew he was there, as I walked by a little bit later, I was like, because. And if you want to have some fun with a man, I did that over at the other place one day. There were some mannequins over there, and I stuck one in an office, and it scared the hell out of people because you walk in, you're not expecting somebody. But then one morning, as I go in, it's like 5:30, it's dark. I turn on the light. There's a mannequin, scared the crap out of me because you're not expecting it. It's just weird. Right. And it's like, Brad, it's just a piece of cardboard. Well, technically, it's plastic, but But he looks good.
I'd be wanting to give a high five, like, yeah, man, tariffs. That would be me, and then I'd realize.
Exactly. All right, so hang on a second. Let me get back to my notes so I don't forget exactly where we were. Oh, yes.
Now,
starting off with, go ahead.
Can I say something real quick?
No.
I just want to say I love that last segment where you were talking about the income tax and the tariffs and everything that's gone on for so long. And I want to add one thing to it. You know what would be great if they made the income tax unconstitutional? Because, by the way, the way it's collected is unconstitutional because it treats different people. It treats people who are supposed to be treated equally differently just based on how much money they earn. And how much money you earn is not a legal characteristic, or at least it shouldn't be. But if we use tariffs and abolish the income tax and banned it, that would mean everybody would be contributing to the services equally. And that's what should be happening. We should all be paying for the services the government is providing, and the government should be accountable to us for the services that it provides. And by the way, Social Security numbers to illegals is not a service that we want. What is it? Gay stuff in Iran, it's not a service that we want, and we should not be contributing to that.
Is there gay stuff in Iran?
Ron,
is there gay stuff in Iran?
I don't know.
Ron is our expert on the gay stuff.
Yeah,
so I just wanted.
Wasn't there some DEI or LGBTQ alphabet that they were doing in a Muslim country? That's what Probably.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's hard to get yourself $37 trillion in debt without having some stupid stuff in there too. And I imagine that was part of it. And the other thing with the tariffs is that because all of us, anybody who is within earshot right now, wasn't alive during the time that tariffs were the main source of income for the United States government. So they don't have any concept other than reading about it, but they don't know what it's like. And that's part of the issue, is that we're doing stuff in Washington because we've always done it that way. And as far as anybody that's currently alive can remember, my whole life has been this way.
Well, what really scares me is the reaction of so many Republicans, because after this started, I went out onto socialist media and I said exactly what I say here. Tariffs should be high, income tax should be banned. And one of the things that I got in response was, and this is from Republicans, by the way, well, the government couldn't survive on that. That's the point. And part of the whole reason we elected these people was because we don't want the government to be surviving off all of our hard work when it isn't contributing damn near anything in the first place. And oh, by the way, the whole point of the United States and the Constitution was to have limited government, and limited government means it has limited funds to operate with. So the fact that so many people have come here and literally embraced the swamp with both hands, it just drives me crazy.
It really is mind-boggling that you have Republican, which just shows you once you get up there, again, I don't know if the swamp creates the creatures in it or if the creatures are just attracted to the swamp, but somehow they find their way there. And instead of, they want to stay there, first of all, and they realize that tariffs are going to mean there's going to be some pain. Prices at Walmart are going to go up. And, Misty, the woman who made a bad decision with Ron so many years ago and remains married to him, deals with the Chinese on a daily basis. And, the people that they sell to are saying, no, we're not going to accept, higher prices. We're not going to buy anything from your Chinese company if the prices go up. But she's like, well, what choice do they have? And unfortunately, we don't make anything here in the United States to speak of. So what are our options? We've become so used to the Chinese teat that we're now searching for another teat, and there are no more teats.
Right.
That's a hell of a way to look at it, isn't it? Are there any teats in Greenland? That was a poor attempt at trying to shift the focus.
A crappy segue, Brad. Just saying.
Well, do you know the answer to it? Are there any teats in Greenland?
I don't think there are any teats in Greenland.
She's trying to find one right now. I can promise you that.
I didn't mean to cut you off there, Phil. If you go ahead and finish your thought.
No, I was saying I don't think there are any teats in Greenland to suckle off of. I don't think so. No.
I think it's
but
isn't it suckle? Don't you suckle a teat? I don't.
You suckle a
it
teat.
Just sounds better if you suckle a teat, right? Ron, write that down.
Got it.
Hashtag suckle the teat.
I do feel bad for a lot of the folks, small businesses. One of my friends was talking about this the other day. She had a business in the apparel industry a long time ago that had been impacted by, I think it was the 2018 tariffs. And, folks who are engaged in that, a lot of the model train manufacturers, a lot of these guys, that's all, where they make most of their stuff. And the crazy part is, while everybody usually associates the Chinese with cheap stuff that's not very good, in their case, it actually is very good, much better than we had been doing here. However, remember, and this is what I talked about in one of this week, the issue with tariffs in the past has been twofold. One, it was to stop the spread of communism, and two, it was to make friends around the world stage. Well, we have a lot of friends, but the problem is we never ever required our friends to do anything that was reciprocal to us. Look, I get it. You know what? The Chinese are proud of their country. They're proud of the stuff they make and what they do. They should be willing to open their market to us without saying, oh, you have to get a domestic partner, or you have to turn over all your IP, or you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do the other. All you should have to do is comply with the basic health and safety rules the same way we ask them to do. And by the way, we should equally be not abusive to them when they come here. And we should ask the same thing of every country. It's simple. And they should also appreciate if we were to abolish the income tax and have high tariffs, that means they get to sell here in a much, much better way because the government's not stealing from you before they have a chance to share their product with you.
Right. But again, what that means the lowest, the LCD right there is that when I go to Walmart and I want to pick up my unnecessary plastic object, it's going to cost more.
It will.
And that's where the pain, nobody in Washington wants to be associated with that pain. You voted for the tariffs and now my unnecessary plastic objects are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% higher.
Well, but
and nobody
on.
wants that.
Hold on, though. What happened in 2021? What happened in 2022? Jerome Powell was sitting up there jacking up interest rates. And what did we hear? Well, we got to deal with inflation. They were creating it in the first place. They inflation, prices of everything went up. And I guess I'm unhappy. Now we're saying, look, here is an opportunity to grow the market, grow jobs, grow our ability to sell our stuff abroad and also have great stuff from abroad. Let's do. Oh no, we can't have that. No. Those price increases are unacceptable. Come on.
I love getting stuff from abroad. Love it. Speaking of broads, how about this broad in Greenland? The Space Force Colonel Susan Myers, who got kicked to the curb. Was that yesterday?
Yeah, last night.
Yeah.
Space Force. Why did there was a woman in charge? First of all, I see a problem there. But secondly, why did they kick her out? What did she do? What did Space Force Colonel Myers do that caused her to be booted by the president?
Well, Vice President Vance, he came to Greenland, and you know that President Trump would like to take over Greenland. There's no secret about that. Hang
on a second. Do you really think he does? Or is that just another dog bone for the mainstream? The
I think he does from a defense standpoint, honestly.
Well, what do you think, Phil?
Yeah, I agree with Ron. Point number one, I think there
hang
might
on.
be.
Let me pause this for just a second because Phil, you are cutting out on a fairly consistent basis here, and I don't know what it is. Can you try turning down the volume on your mic just a little? I think you might be hitting the compression. And let's just see.
No, it's an internet thing, Brad. He's cutting out the internet.
But when you turn it down, it's only when he peaks high. So I'm thinking if we just, I don't know, we'll see if it works. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to hear what you were saying. So you think that he really does want Greenland? And he's gone. You know what? Hang on. Phil, go ahead and reconnect to us. Ron, do whatever magic you do back there, and we'll reconnect because I want to make sure that we hear all of
reconnect to us,
what Phil has to, what he has to say because there's something going on. Bug's mom is leaving the Rumble chat room. What is wrong with you? How could you leave in the position of where we are right now? Wade Robertson got a new position at work. Now you sit behind. No, you can't be a desk jockey now. You're going to lose that incredible. I mean, where are we going to get the? Oh yeah, he takes those pictures at the gym anyway, so it doesn't matter. Michaela's mom, Mike, is boycotting, right? Wombat mommy, Brad, do you like getting the clap from abroad? Wow, you and Ron. There's some broads in that clapping in there. I've not stopped in over at the Daily Mojo chat room just yet. Dr. Zoe knows consumption tax only get rid of any other tax. He's gone again.
No, he reconnected.
All right. Is that better?
We'll have to see.
Okay.
We'll have to see. We're talking about that broad over in Greenland.
By the way, I use this to deal with Al Gore because he was trying to block our access to the internet. That's not going to happen anymore.
Dirty bastard. All right, so we were talking about Colonel Myers over in Greenland, the Space Force colonel who was relieved of her duties, and the reasoning behind it. Go.
Yeah. Well, she sent an email and said, hey, we at this base do not reflect the views of President Trump and Vice President Vance. She wrote it down and sent it to the people on her base and anybody else who was on her mailing list, and that was all she needed. Her superior said, I've lost confidence in your ability to lead because, frankly, the one thing you cannot do, there's a lot of things you can't do, but number one you can't do is simply say, you know what, screw them, I don't agree with what they're saying. It's one thing to say it person to person quietly. It's another thing to write it down and send it to everybody, which is exactly what she did, and that's why she's out of there.
And that makes perfect sense to boot her to the curb. That is the dumbest thing. Why would you do that and she's military, right? I mean, Space Force is technically military, which again,
and Trump is her boss. That's the way it is.
Right.
Period.
So
whether she agrees with him or not, he's still her boss.
Yeah. And so, I mean, is this any different than anybody else? In the, if somebody, if a low-life enlisted Space Force cadet or something sent an email like that and said, I don't agree with any of this crap.
She would can them. She would can them.
They'd be disciplined into next week. So, again, this is why we put a woman in charge of Space Force over in Greenland is beyond me. But now you see the result. Damn it.
Well, you got to ask another question, too. What did she hope to accomplish? Because if you think about it, anybody who's around that base, they're depending on the United States, the power that we're projecting and so on. So she's basically saying, listen, I am disconnecting us from the power that we are projecting. And so that means you have this one person and a few people scattered on an icy, something larger than an island, but icy landmass in the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
What good does that do? That, there's literally no benefit if that's really what she's trying to sell. So she's undercutting herself in just about every way.
Oh, and I know we were deep in the heart of whether or not Trump really wants to take over Greenland, or if that's just a big, a red herring. And both you and Ron think that he really does want it. And what was you were going into the reasoning for why he does want it when the NSA cut our connection? So
yes.
Pick up there also.
Number one, defense is part of it. The other is there has been some discussion that there might be rare earth minerals and the like there that could be mined. So that could be another opportunity there that helps limit dependence on China, which is so critical. But you also just have to think about going back to the defensive standpoint. Here's another place where if there ever was a need to project real power of the United States toward Europe and toward Asia, Russia, and so on, then you have the ability to do it from your own land, as opposed to reaching an agreement with somebody else. What is it, Diego Garcia or some of it's a different island, but a few of the other islands where they would go to base off of and then fly into to bomb. So yeah, that's another reason to have it.
This is that strikes in my mind the question I've always had: why the United States? And I get it, we are a superpower, but we have bases everywhere around the planet, pretty much, and yet
nobody has one here.
No, nobody has one here, which I find. I mean, again, I'm as an American citizen, I'm like, works for me, but it is kind of weird, right? I mean, it's a little strange from a worldwide perspective rather.
Well, you know what I would say? I would say they actually, a lot of them have bases here, and the bases here are right in Washington, D.C., and they happen to be politicians who are carrying out what they want, especially the Chinese. But hey, who am I?
Very, 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 very nice. And you're right, I think. Yeah. So they're here, but
not in a military circumstance. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're clandestine, the worst kind for us. So good, excellent point. Which is why, I mean, it's not just because you're black that you're here, Phil. I mean, that helps. And we had a discussion this morning with Jasmine Crockett, and she was all behind it. He's black. You got to have him on the program. It does. You think of us, think of Ron and I as the white bread. And there you go. Was that
Well,
your
all
knuckle
right.
cracking, Ron? What was that? Were you
Nope.
getting?
No.
It sounded a little bizarre. Anyway, back to women, broads. We got to talk about these
Yeah.
broads. Gretchen Witmer, with her meeting at what was she meeting with Trump at the White House for? She looks
Tariffs.
odd.
Yeah, she went to talk about tariffs, and she's in an interesting spot because on one hand, Michigan does benefit from a lot of cross-border trade because Southern Ontario is right next door. On the other hand, you also have a lot of manufacturing there, auto manufacturing, and you've heard things such as Stellantis, which is an absurd company. We'll just call them Chrysler, talking about bringing the V8 production into Michigan, manufacturing trucks there. General Motors still having a very large footprint, as well as Ford. So she's over there trying to navigate the little bit of a difficult waters that somebody, whoever leads Michigan, will have. Because like I said, on one hand, the cross-border trade is a big benefit. On the other hand, they also would like to see a lot of those plants which move to places like Oshawa, Ontario, matriculate right on back across the border into Michigan. But you know what the interesting part is? Just like you were talking about in the last segment, someone like her or whoever it becomes governor, and hopefully it's John James next, they are not going to be able to have the real success that we're looking at unless they get rid of the non-tariff barriers right here in the United States, like property taxation, capricious regulation, and the fact that somebody like Big Gretch, as cute as she is, can get elected and start messing with you just like that with no limits.
I need to push back on something you just said because I used to think the same thing about Big Gretch when I first saw her, and I thought she's reasonably attractive. But then it was the pie hole opened. And then suddenly the points got sucked right off the board. And then I started realizing she kind of looks like a wax dummy. I don't know who does her makeup, but she, in the right lighting, I mean, I'm not sure that she isn't a fembot. I think it's absolutely possible.
Do you remember the Seinfeld episode where Jerry dated this woman who only looked good in certain light? I think that's Big Gretch too. If they photograph her straight on, she's fine, but then other times it's there's just some people that way. Also, that's why I just face straight ahead, and you rarely see this. There's a reason.
Me too. Nobody. Well, some people have a good profile. I'm not one of them. Ron, I don't think you're.
I don't have one either.
Get back on screen. Don't hide like
man.
Little sissy. Come on. All right. Now turn to the side, to your left.
To my left?
Or your right, either one.
It's a better profile than this one.
It's not horrible.
This one has got the wonky
It's not
eye.
horrible. Right, but we're looking at the profile, just the added package. And your profile is honestly not bad. Mine is.
Yours isn't bad either.
No,
it's not too bad.
It's too much skin here.
Is this C?
Too much skin hanging around.
See, Phil looks like he needs to be on a coin. Look at that. Look at
the chiseled jaw.
I know, dude.
I mean, it's straight.
It's this. You're getting distracted by the 45, 47, which is
why it is.
I wear it. See?
And it's funny because you're in your shot. You're just a little bit lower than Ron and I. It's like we both had to look down. It's really kind of strange. But I'm looking at pictures here of Gretch, and there are some that are like this one. Let me see if I can. Hang on a minute. The important stuff there. That is not a bad picture of Gretchen Witmer.
No, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
just as long as she doesn't start talking about liberalism.
Right, and that one right there just doesn't.
Yeah,
and let's not anybody go, well, it's about you're objectifying. No, because the truth of the matter is, as a leader, people will listen to you more if you are attractive. I didn't make the rules. I just happen to recognize them and am not afraid to call them out. But ugly people have a hard time getting things done. Just saying.
Yeah.
Who was the dude in Canada that looked like Chris Farley? Remember that the leader up there?
Rob Ford, right?
Yes. Is he dead?
Yeah. He's dead, unfortunately. Yeah, but his brother is the premier of Ontario. He's the one who was complaining because Trump said he wants to make Canada the 51st state.
Is that, and see, that's a red herring too, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's so good. It's hard to tell sometimes when Trump is throwing out the red herring because they've gotten so good at mixing up the red herrings with the legit stuff that none of the legacy media knows which bone to follow. And they end up spinning in circles.
Yeah, and from a serious standpoint, if anybody ever were to say, let's go ahead and incorporate Canada into the United States, you'd be importing millions of Democrats from places like Ontario and Quebec, and all they would do is vote Democrat year after year after year. Oh, and British Columbia too.
Right.
So that would not be good. But I've always dreamed of the idea of saying, hey, you know what? We will offer California, Oregon, and Washington the ability to go join Canada in exchange for Alberta and Saskatchewan. You get oil, you get trains, you get beautiful women. Didn't Pamela Anderson come from someplace like Saskatchewan or Alberta, something like that? And in exchange they get liberals. So it would be a great trade.
I think it's a fabulous trade. Let's see where she was. Pam Anderson was born. Yeah, Lady Smith, Canada. I did not know there was a place called Lady Smith, but there is. Lady Smith, I don't know where Lady Smith is, but it's in BC. There you go. Oyster Harbor.
British Columbia.
Lady Smith was originally Oyster Harbor. What, they changed the name from? What's wrong with Oyster Harbor? I mean, it's weird. All right, so we got that covered. And then you also, the really good news about the deficit, the March deficit. This is from Zero Hedge, and again, they don't report. I mean, the legacy media again doesn't seem to want to report any of the good stuff. They're still hanging on to that stupid. What was the app?
Signal.
Signal. They're still trying to beat that horse, and it does not stick because there's nothing there. But I still see those headlines. But you see something like March deficit unexpectedly tumbles to a 5-year low as Doge cracks down on Democrat money laundering schemes. And you only find this at places like Zero Hedge.
Yeah. Dramatically lower. And I think it was the lowest it's been in 5 years, simply because they were able to go out, figure out all of the waste, fraud, and abuse that was out there. And there was a lot of waste and a whole lot of fraud, which is abusive. And so you have this dramatic decline in what they call income security spending. And nobody really knows what the idea of income security is, except it was actually money laundering for Democrat causes. And against even many Republicans in D.C. complaining that, you can't do that. You can't impound spending. You can't stop it, despite the fact that was something every administration has done on a daily basis. You saw a big drop in the deficit. Now, this is important to remember. A lot of people forget the deficit and the debt are two different things, but the deficit being the amount over collections, tax collections, that the government spent during the month. So that's what declined substantially. And March was the first month where Doge was operating at its full capacity. So that does show you, although there's a lot of complaints that, dealing with what's called discretionary spending isn't really going to make a big impact, it absolutely can. And now it's time to turn these guys loose on the so-called mandatory spending, the entitlement spending, and see who's actually receiving Social Security, how many years they've been dead, who's actually receiving unemployment. And we saw that they were spending a lot of money on unemployment to people who are not actually even real in the first place, and start to cut down on that too. They can do a whole heck of a lot before you even start to touch the actual programs that have been authorized and have been passed into law.
What's being done about the craziness, the people who are dead still collecting Social Security, the people who don't exist or whatever collecting unemployment? What is being done? What's the action being taken to stop that sort of abuse? Because we hear the problem exists Now we've got to correct it, but what is the action you take to correct it? Why are we not hearing about that?
Well, I think that it's probably just because it's not something interesting to talk about. You know, if you find out that Bob Smith, who's been dead for 40 years, is actually receiving unemployment, you just stop sending an unemployment check to Bob Smith, right? That's it. So there's not a whole lot that you're going to talk about in the media. However, the key is what is going to be done both in the executive branch and in the legislative branch to make sure this does not happen in the future. And that is really where we need to see a lot more from the Congress. And the Congress is going to have to do something that it really doesn't want to do, which is start to pass legislation that has actual structures within it, or decide that it should not be involved in legislating about a particular issue. And that is something that a very, very responsible Congress, and I do believe we have at least a responsible Congress, but not a very responsible one, could start to make those steps. Because if you cannot control a program, then you should not create that program. And that's the end of the story.
Shouldn't be any more programs, as far as I'm concerned, created right now. I mean, good grief. We've got, we don't even know how many programs we have, quite frankly. Just like we don't know how many laws we have in this country. It is so incredibly out of control. And when it comes to the money, this new budget that that they're tinkering around with, is it something that's going to address any of these problems? I mean, again, everybody is frustrated, myself included, with it does not seem that when it comes time to make these budgets, that there's being a whole lot changed within the framework of the budget itself. What is happening with Mike Johnson and the rest up there?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I haven't heard a lot of positive things that are coming out of it. You know, there were a couple of members, Victoria Spartz was one and Thomas Massey the other, who voted against it because it didn't include enough spending cuts. There were up to 12 the previous day that were not willing to vote for the House's budget because it didn't include enough spending cuts. And Johnson was supposedly able to mollify 10 of the 12. I'll be honest with you. What I would like to do, and this is where I am sad that FreedomWorks is gone, is that we are not as easily able to start going crazy on our members, Democrat or Republican, and telling them that what we want is real spending cuts. And here's the thing. While everybody, they all get squeamish, oh my gosh, you can't cut this. This is going to impact my district. This is going to impact my district. You know what the beauty of having President Trump as the leader is? He has set the stage for saying, look, we can be as aggressive as possible as long as we justify why we are being as aggressive as possible. And frankly, putting more money back into the pockets of everyday individuals is the best thing that you can possibly do. So remembering the fact that a cut in Washington, D.C. is not an actual cut, it's just a reduction in an increase. That means you can make a lot of cuts before anybody is actually losing a job or seeing something go away or otherwise, and give them a raise right there. And then later on, once you prove it works, which is easy to do, make some actual cuts.
And the reason I know exactly what you're saying is going back years, I think probably the late 90s, with the late, great Rush Limbaugh, who would say, it was the Democrats who were complaining that the Republicans were cutting spending on, school lunches, something like that. And he was explaining it's not an actual cut. They're still going to be spending the same amount of money, if not more, but they've cut the amount with which they're raising it, which is completely different than, making a cut. They're just not growing it as much. So they've got all of this language that they use in Washington designed specifically to confuse the hell out of the average person. And they do it because it's effective, because some people are stupid and don't dig. But I think maybe, possibly, we're now seeing people waking up to that and listening more carefully, because I think there are more people who now don't trust DC, don't trust legacy media, and that's why things like the Signal app, they're pushed to try to get that to the forefront from the left, isn't working, because more people are paying attention now. Doesn't it feel like that?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And Alex Jones, in his interview with Tucker Carlson the other day, I think he kind of said it the right way, in that what they had created, what the globalists had created, had been collapsing anyway. And I think because of that collapse, that is what's made a lot more people over the past 12, 13, 14 years more willing to listen to voices that they ordinarily would not have listened to. But I want to say this too, for anybody out in the audience, if you ever have any difficulty explaining the cuts in Washington, just put it like this. If next year you were going to buy 2 new cars and the year after that you were going to buy 3 new cars, and suddenly you decide you're only going to get 1 more new car next year, then that's considered a cut. But guess what? You're still getting at least 1 new car. That's okay.
Right.
And there is no reason why in Washington, D.C., that they could not, and this Republican House could not simply say, we are going to have a budget where we freeze spending at 2019 levels. Because if we put it at 2019 levels, that does not include COVID foolishness, and that does not include money for Biden's inflation. That's it. Just spend like it was 2019. And if we do that, you'll be A-okay. That's a start.
Party like it's 1999. What's happening at the All-American Talk Show over on the YouTubes?
Well, we had a great show last week. We'll be having another one on Tuesday. We're going to have a special guest on Tuesday. I won't say the name, but that's why I want everybody to tune in at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. And you should also know I've got my feelers out to the Brad Staggs and Ron Phillips people. I'm getting in touch with their people because we want to have them on the All-American Talk Show. But the weird thing is they keep saying no. They're like, you're not important enough. Go back and play with your train. So I'm working on it.
Well, we'll have a little talk with our people, Brad, or Phil.
Well, yeah, until Phil and his people, up the price and agree to the right amount of money, and then we can get some things done. And over at All Things Trains, capitalism is brutal. All Things Trains USA on the YouTube as well.
Well, so we're getting ready for it's going to be a really interesting week next week, going to the New Jersey Transaction Conference. That has nothing to do with trans, it's transportation. So there you go. We'll be podcasting live from there, which is going to be really exciting. Last week or this week, I was out in Denver. So that's where you see that video of the Rocky Mountaineer, the luxury train, which is apparently spectacular. I didn't get to ride it, but that's another story for another day. So we had a lot of fun in Denver, meeting a lot of great folks from the short line railroad industry, and they are very excited, trying to grow, move all the cargo that we need to get from point A to point B, and working with the larger railroads to do it. So we'll be talking more about that in the coming week.
Cool. All right, my friend Phil Bell, ladies and gentlemen, our Washington, D.C. Correspondent, engineer first class, or however they term that in railroad stuff terms, and all-around good guy. All right, be safe out there this weekend. I'll talk again next week.
See you, Phil.
Have a great weekend.
You got it. We'll talk UFOs coming up next on the Daily Mojo.
Thank God it's Friday.
Hey, where are the white women at?
The Daily Mojo.
Off to the Rumble chat room, Chief Mustache. I will recommend your train channel to someone I know who loves trains. Chief Mustache. I've not seen that name in there before, so if you're new, welcome. Space Hippie on vacay. According to the drunk guy that took a swing at me yesterday as he was being hauled off by an Anaheim PD, I'm off to enjoy ruining people's Disneyland vacations. Happy Friday. Wow.
Oh, wow. There's a story there we ought to hear.
There's fighting words. If there's somebody messing with our Audrey, we're going to I'll take them out. And I don't mean for dinner, if you know what I'm saying. California cowgirl. No, I don't want to be a Canadian. Well, and I know you're in California, and no, there would be the way we would work it out with Canada being the 51st state. There'd be a massive relocation effort of different people. You would be allowed to choose, where you stayed, because we don't want to lose the actual state of California. It's too pretty. It's just the people that need to go. Some. And by some, I mean those who have been responsible for ruining the hell out of California, which really irritates me. So there's a whole process there. We're not letting you go anywhere, California. That's not happening. Deb Trebway says, I'm weaning off of Canadian bacon. Oh, I heard Mark Levin say something the other day about Canadian lumber. And I was like, oh, what's this? And the reason I say that is because I used to be the spokesman for the Southern Pine Awareness Network. And that was back in the early aughts. Lord have mercy, that's 20 years ago. Anyway, but part of the reason that the Southern Pine Awareness Network came to be was that prior to that time, Canada had been accused and proven guilty of dumping their wood here in the United States and undercutting the United States forest industry. I don't have all the specific.
When you say
details
dumping their
in front
wood,
of
are
me.
you talking about they were selling wood in the U.S.
at underpriced?
Oh,
right.
I see.
They were dumping it.
Yeah.
From an economic standpoint, they had to. I think they didn't agree to guilt, but they had to pay X millions of dollars to the United States forest, and there was money that transferred hands from Canadian entities to American entities, and part of that was to promote the wonders of Southern wood, which I can't think of anybody better to talk about good wood than moi. Can you?
No. I can't.
That's right. You can't. That's why I was the wood guy. You're welcome.
We need to watch you build something on the next watch party. That'd be cool. Vintage Brad Staggs building a
some
product with some wood stuff. Yeah. That was I actually got stuck in rabbit hole in your Vintage Brad Staggs videos.
Yeah. Got rabbit hole in
Yeah.
me, huh?
Yeah, that one that I think you built one where it was a two-seater bench where one person faces one way and
that bench has gotten more views.
It might not have been on the Vintage Brad Staggs. It might have been on the
other one.
Yeah, on the other Brad Staggs. Where all your woodworking stuff is.
All my wood. I keep all my wood.
That's actually the Brad Staggs YouTube channel, right?
That is, I think it's Brad Staggs DI. I forget that one's out there. It might be Tool School. Hang on a minute. Where in the hell are those videos? Because, yeah, you're right. There is one particular bench that was constructed was the hell was that thing called? Where is that bench? A redneck shop project. That's not it.
The Southern Pine. There's Southern Pine. Pine bird feeder.
This is all part of the. As a bird, that's my next door neighbor's house in Nashville. I can't. Maybe it was. I don't remember what it was, but I know which bench you're talking about, and that was. Those are fun projects. If you haven't checked out either the tool, look at him. Look at that wood.
Knock it out probably half a day in the shop, maybe a whole day if you really wanted to go slowly. We're going to base the whole thing off a 1x6 batten, and essentially I've just cut it into two sections because
He's dreamy.
10-foot sections
He is
of lumber,
dreamy.
so about 4.5.
He had hair.
And
I've seen him naked.
goes down. Plus, we have to use a new tool. This is really cool. You'll love it.
I still have that tool.
You know what? The stories you tell about doing like the DIY network and all of that stuff in that what you see on TV isn't even really half of the because the prep for building stuff was always way worse than what you saw on TV.
You have to clean it up so it looks good. Where the hell? Now you got me all.
I'm looking for it too.
I think it's let's see, Brad Staggs bench project. I bet we can find it that way. Oh, there it is, right there. I was on the real Brad. Good
Real
Lord,
Brad
how many
Staggs.
YouTube channels do I have?
Yeah, it's a real Brad Staggs
I don't
channel.
even know how many stinking.
This bench was pretty cool to watch build.
This was that. Oops, hang on. That is Beth E. Knott's backyard in Nashville. That pagoda. What do you call that thing?
Gazebo.
A gazebo.
Yeah, that's
that
nice.
gazebo. And I graciously gifted that to the Beth E. Knott because I could have had that built in my backyard, my house.
Oh, did you build it for a show?
No, I didn't. They had the Southern Pine. We built it for. Well, yes, I guess technically we built it for the media tour that was going to happen, so it could be the background. And they came in and they built this thing over a weekend. It was nice.
It looks nice, yeah.
I mean, really nice. And so she got to enjoy the benefits of that. The bench there, that is a cool bench. It was the concept was actually given to me by a friend, and it's a neat little bench. It's a neat little project. And it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, look at that. There's no like beer belly hanging out. There's got hair. Because I'd forgotten about this YouTube channel, plus the vintage Brad Staggs YouTube channel.
Oh, now you want to see hair? Go to the vintage Brad Staggs channel. Look at that.
There you go. There's some hair. That's Mildred.
Yep.
Oh, Mildred. I was looking Mildred up. I think this was 1989. Mildred has long
at the MUFON
since
convention.
Look,
she's touching your hair.
She's touching my hair. Mildred Higgins. And she had one heck of a story. Let's.
You'll find honest, true-life stories from honest people, like Mildred Higgins, who describes an encounter she had over 40 years ago.
Like that. So as this object hovered above us, I mean, it traveled and then stopped and hovered. I stood there and I got a message. Do you want to hear about that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure.
Well, let me get to your hair here.
Okay.
I felt something come over me. Just like this, down like this.
Brad got a Woody.
Soft.
That is making me hot.
And right here in the solar plexus, I got the words. You're seeing something tonight the world knows nothing of.
It does now, Mildred.
That was quite a convention. I remember that.
It does now, Mildred. That voice.
It does now, Mildred. Hey, Mildred. How you doing? Mildred looked at me and she said... Oh, Mildred. Jake Level over in the Kick chat room says, Southern wood will rise again. Damn straight it will. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Damn straight it will. And thank you, Vince, over on the Daily MoJo app. If you have not downloaded the Daily MoJo app, please do so. And unlike Ron, please turn on your notifications. Ron is setting a bad example
dude,
for the rest
I have
of you.
Notifications for my app turned on.
What?
You can turn on and off notifications for different apps, Brad.
Okay. Vince says, have you listened to Tucker's interview with Alex Jones? I just saw it. I've been kind of buried the past couple of days, thanks to Keith. By the way, a programming note this afternoon, I will be on At the Mic with Keith again. Starts at 2.
Is this a continuation of the Roswell discussion?
No.
Or okay.
Nope. Something completely different. We did discuss, and then don't forget, Saturday morning live, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central Time, all time Central, the only time zone that really matters. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff tomorrow. The thumbnail says something about Attack of the Clones. And we may or may not talk about clones. We'll see. But anyway, download the Daily MoJo app, enable notifications. You can send us notes. Little texts on the app, and it's an easy way to communicate. And I do check those. Not so much the email. I'm getting better at the emails, but I'm still not quite there yet. But I'm getting there. So we did yesterday talk about UFOs on At the Mic, the deep dive.
Yep.
We spoke with Don Schmidt, who is the author of Witness to Roswell, and and get the latest edition is the one that is the 75th anniversary edition, and the stuff that is in there is just mind-boggling how they treated these people. But he and I had spoken with some of the same people over the years Don Schmidt had started his investigation into Roswell back in 1989. That was about the time I got into the investigation of unidentified flying objects and alien abductions, etc. And he and I both had spoken with Leonard Stringfield up in Ohio, who was a big, and again, you don't realize the people you're talking to and their significance in the story until many, many years later, because Len Stringfield is a legend in UFO circles. And we talked to him about, not preparation, what's it called? Not indoctrination, but essentially just getting people ready. And this, again, is 35 years ago, conditioning people to and preparing them for the news that, hey, we're not alone. There are aliens out there. Because, again, back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was
disclosure.
It's hard to believe. Disclosure is, another way to look at it. But it was a different world back then, 35 years ago. Strange. And people, UFOs were mocked, probably. Actually, the intro to this segment, I'll just play you the intro, and it's not because I want you to see my hair.
Yeah.
It's because of the way Lisa Foster and Dan Miller approached the intro.
Well, as we promised you, today we will begin a week-long look at a subject that I personally find very fascinating. And we have some scoffers in our crowd. I won't mention any names, but here to enlighten us further is Brad Staggs.
Well,
Brad.
This is the start of a series.
Yeah,
you're doing,
five-part series this week. This is UFO Week on American Magazine, and I don't know if I can enlighten
Orange Man bad.
anybody because since I got involved in this whole thing, I think I've just kind of buried myself. There's so much information on UFOs. When I decided to do this series, I thought, okay, we'll do 5 parts and that'll be it. That was funny.
You kind of feel like that this country is being indoctrinated.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's the word I was looking for. Over the past, it all began in 1947. Let's start at the beginning. A man by the name of Kenneth Arnold was flying over Mount Shasta in Washington. And he saw 9 objects traveling at a very high rate of speed.
Anyway, to make a long story short, that was when the UFO flap began, the history of UFOs. And then Len Stringfield, who had this to say.
Leonard Stringfield, a 40-year veteran of UFO investigations, agrees with Exler. The public must be prepared before a concept of such magnitude is introduced.
But you can imagine what would happen to the stock market if something were to come out, be announced by the government or world governments as something of this nature. So they refer to it officially as the cultural shock.
Culture shock. There you go.
Yeah.
Still not the word I was looking for. But anyway, fascinatingly, when he talks about, what would happen to stock markets and what would happen to religion and all of that. But look at what happened to the stock markets during COVID. I mean, I think we've had bigger shocks now to the system than we would if, a ship landed and something walked out. I'm not sure we'd all collectively have the same reaction to it.
No, we'd all be like, I told you so. You weren't listening. Poof. Then we'd be moving on to the next topic that was on the news that night.
Yeah. And then it would be, remember that series V?
Yeah.
And didn't they
That was
integrate?
Visitor,
I'm not even
I
sure I
think.
watched
Yeah.
all of it. Is that what? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was the integration of aliens into society, and
that was 80s, 90s, 80s.
Sure,
late 80s.
I think it was 80s.
Yeah.
But one theory is all of those shows were there just to prepare society for the eventual announcement. Now,
1983, by the way. Wow.
40 years ago. But they've had plenty of opportunities to present us with the evidence.
Yep.
They haven't used those for whatever reason, but the Roswell thing, it goes back, I think, and one of the questions I asked Don Schmidt was their reluctance or their refusal to disclose what they had found in the desert, what crashed? Was it about national security or was it about capitalism? It was Washington who came, the capital, not the person. Washington was the one who put the kibosh on the, once they had even announced that they'd found a flying saucer, that, nope, stop, pull it back, brakes on, hard stop, walk it back, tell them it was a weather balloon. And then, of course, the story changed, 3 more times, which is still strange. And, there are those. And Zonos was over in the chat, and he said it's probably military. I'm telling you, you read that book, Witness to Right, you'll understand. It wasn't a military thing. It was 1947. It was not anything military.
Would you not agree, though, that the majority of UFO sightings are military planes that we just don't know about yet? Or is that...
There's something, yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're all military planes, but a lot of UFO sightings are not, they're all UFOs. They're all...
I mean, imagine people seeing the B-2 bomber before it was ever a thing. I mean... That thing
they used to fly that over our house.
Yeah, that looks different than anything we've ever had from an aircraft standpoint. Hell, even the stealth fighter, even the F-117.
Were there occasions? Absolutely. And they flew that stuff over our house all the time because we lived in the Antelope Valley.
At night? Did they fly it at night?
They flew it during the day.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Again, you didn't have... if you took a picture, what were you going to do? I mean, aside from, look, I've got this picture, and mail it to somebody?
Yeah, that's true.
There was not really a way to
post it on X
mass
at that
communicate.
Time.
Yeah. Right. So it just wasn't that big a deal. And again, the fact that in that book, when Mac Brazel tells somebody who, because Mac Brazel was the guy who initially found the pieces of the wreckage and took them into town and was showing people, and they made his life miserable. Frank Joyce, one of them. Frank Joyce, the guy who worked at the radio station, who was going to interview Mac Brazel about it. They made Frank Joyce's life miserable. They told him, and he was pissed because he gets a call from D.C., from the Pentagon, I think, and they say, you either don't talk about this, don't interview Mac Brazel, anything you've heard, come out and deny it, or I'll make your life miserable. And Frank Joyce is like, oh, yeah, what are you going to do about it? Blow me, and hangs up. They ended up committing him to a mental hospital for a year.
What?
That's what they did. I know. I'd never heard that story.
Wow.
They imprisoned him basically in a mental hospital. Remember how we were talking about bring mental hospitals back, bring mental institutions back, sanatoriums or whatever? Yeah. They were also used for bad things, like anything else.
Well, it was a place where you could send somebody to shut them up for all intents and purposes, because the majority of people out there would think, okay, well, they admitted them, so they're crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was one of the earliest forms of cancellation. They got canceled.
Yeah.
Big time. I mean, it's pretty wild. The things that they did, they were horrible to these people. Peekapool says, wow, Barb, what'd you do to ruin your voice? A lot of hard miles and bad women.
Your voice isn't ruined, people.
I wasn't speaking from my diaphragm.
Voice. You do.
Oh, stop it.
You do.
Look, you don't have to beg me to touch the no-no square.
No, dude.
You can't rape the willing.
No.
You cannot rape the willing. Wade Robertson, hey, Bard, look at me. They finally let the wild native inside to have a big boy job. This is the first step to a beer belly, dude. You don't want that. Look at his
his workstation area. Yeah.
He just likes having me on his desk.
Yeah.
That's okay. I have a naked picture of you on mine. DM says, old people, I'm old enough to remember when we had a Democrat president, Republican Congress, a budget surplus, and nobody dying in the streets because of the government. And I'm assuming you're referring to the 90s under Clinton. You don't know that we didn't, but the thing is, we didn't know what was happening behind the scenes back then. That's part of the issue, is we were all in a nice state of slumber. I have one more break, don't I? Gotta get to.
Yeah.
We were all in a state of slumber, and it wasn't necessarily good. I mean, everything sounded or seemed copacetic, but it wasn't necessarily that way. And we'll talk more about that coming up on the Daily Mojo.
Just the facts, ma'am.
Says who, flathead? Thank God it's Friday!
The Daily Mojo.
Beaver says, while you were talking, I mixed garlic herb sourdough pizza crust for tonight and sourdough bread. I do love homemade bread. Don't you, Ron?
I do.
You love you some homemade bread.
It's unfortunate that I do, but I like bread.
I know.
Cheese, I can do without cheese, but I like bread.
Beer, which is bread in a glass, right?
Liquid bread.
Deb says, yeah, Brad, start building an ark. Yeah, big an ark. You know how much space you'd need to build an ark? And Deb says, Bede's voice is like fine wine. I don't know who the hell Bede is, but stop talking about him.
Yeah.
He's
Hey, Wisconsin Jackhole says, I'm not gay, but I'd probably go gay for younger real Brad Staggs.
Me too.
The hair, dude. The hair does it for me.
Would that make me gay if I was hot for me?
Ooh, that's actually a great question.
Right? I'm just, Jay Reed over in the kick room says, hey, wait, Brad was a hunk? Oh, so many years ago. So many years ago. Kelly Ripa, because I did mention this earlier, her refusing to take off the glove.
The glove.
It wasn't because she'd been accused of killing her ex-husband. He was actually sitting right there, but they did a live segment, and she had this vibrating glove off. She said, "It's the happiest I've been in a very long time." Ron, of course, seeing vibrating and happiest, made this all about sexual innuendo, which is horrible. And I can't believe you made that connection, because that's
I would think
wrong.
that they would make a vibrating glove specifically for massage.
They make a vibrating glove, for arthritis.
Sore muscles, yeah. Back, neck, shoulders.
It's $95. It's a fukuoku. Excuse me, a fukuoku. Well, that's what it says right there, does it not?
Yeah, it does.
What is that brand? Fukuoku.
Fukuoku.
Fukumi, Fukuyu.
Yeah.
It gets it's $95. It is for massaging, and some people say it is for rheumatoid arthritis. It doesn't have to be it's not always about sex, Ron. My question is this: if you buy this in Texas, are you going to have to show an ID?
Probably, yeah.
Which is, I asked that question of Beth, not.
Huh?
You're going to have to show an ID to buy a damn glove that vibrates because you got rheumatoid arthritis? Because that ain't right. Damn it. That is not right. Here is and it was Sassafras who tweeted this out, and it is I don't know what year it was recorded, but this guy puts it into, he makes the point about us not paying attention. I think he did a good job.
If all this stuff wasn't being exposed, we wouldn't have been able to imagine how terrible things are. I'm sorry to all of you that I, for the last 6.5 decades, have not really been paying attention. I apologize like crazy because my negligence has afforded this, and I realize there's a whole lot of people who weren't paying attention, but I'm saying, look, if I could go back, I would do things way different. Right now, I realize that, and I might be promoting myself, I'm nothing more than a doormat. And I've always been a doormat to these people, these corrupt people. All they wanted for me to do was just join the vortex of the pseudo-slavery that they had us in, where we were all part of this thing where they fooled us into thinking we could own stuff and be happy and all that kind of stuff. And I, bought into it hook, line, and sinker. I wanted to be a rock star and an actor. I wanted to be rich and famous, and I didn't care what it cost me. And I was so involved in pursuing and so self-focused that I wasn't paying attention to what was actually happening. And it was happening long before I was born. And so, like I said, I probably elevated myself to doormat. The truth is, we're nothing more than the scum of the earth, deplorable pieces of, doggy poo-poo. That's all we are to these people. All they wanted for us was to be distracted so that we wouldn't be paying attention to what they were actually up to. And I was too stupid to know it. And so I'm apologizing all over the place.
And I'm stopping there. You can watch the rest of it on the X. But I think a lot of people feel that way. And the thing is, I don't think you have to apologize. I mean, I'm certainly guilty of that, not paying attention. And as Ron has said many times, that was one of the greatest gifts I think that Trump gave us, exposing, allowing or causing these yutzes who've been in the swamp, causing them to expose themselves. If you know what I'm saying, I think you do.
Yeah, Adam Schiff, for instance.
Exactly.
I mean,
so I just still don't think it was petty for Trump to say I don't want to introduce because I don't like him.
Yeah.
But these because of their hatred for Orange Man, they came out and accused him of everything that we could all plainly see wasn't true. There are still people out there who are apparently dumber than dirt, who can't get past Orange Man for whatever reason. But everything has been exposed. And to DM's comment, back when in the 90s when we had a Democrat president, Republican Congress, people weren't dying in the streets for, we don't necessarily know that. It looked that way, but behind the scenes, things were happening, and not good things. They were able to cover all this stuff up for so long because people weren't paying attention. We didn't feel like we had to. And it wasn't until things got so stinking bad that it woke a lot of people up. And it's fortunately that feeling has continued. That movement has continued. And it's just beginning. I mean, this is going to, who knows how many decades.
Well, you think about it, the internet
work out.
The internet it got real big in like 96, 97. So we're coming up on 30 years of internet access. There are people that are quite nearly 30 years old and maybe a little older who don't know a world without internet access, the instant ability to communicate.
Yeah, we had smoke signals.
In the 80s, we were like the Pony Express, apparently. So
the year when the average U.S. household began to have a computer at home is difficult to pinpoint exactly, according to your friend and mine, Grok, but it was in the late 1990s, early 2000s when computer ownership became widespread. By 2000, about half of homes had computer. Only half.
I had my first computer, my very first computer that I bought in 1986, and it was an Apple IIc Plus. And then after that, that's when the PCs started gaining ground and stuff like that. So yep. I would think it was earlier than the late 90s, early 2000s, but maybe from people buying them. Yeah.
When the average 50% of homes by the year 2000 had a computer.
Yeah.
Remember, there are still some starving children in China who don't have
computers. No, I get it.
Right. We need to send them a lot of money. According to this subreddit, the subreddit is called Ask Old People. When did having computers at home become the norm? From a little reading, about a third of the households in the United States had a computer by 1997, 50% by 2000. So again, communication was not it was a business that we were in. It's not what we did back in the day. So it was easier to present the illusion that things were grand remember the Clinton administration cuts to government.
Yeah.
Which kind of was a sham if you look at it, because that didn't stick, did it? And it became the illusion of things being okay. Which is, I wonder if that is why. I mean, 9/11, you think about this, half the homes in the United States had a computer year 2000. And then in 2001, what happened? Boom, 9/11. Coincidence or not, I don't know. But it's interesting that suddenly, when our ability to communicate, that'd be a fascinating study, wouldn't it? Our ability to communicate with each other on a widespread basis was really starting to take off by the year 2000. Half of the country. And then suddenly an event happens that cracks down on a lot of our freedoms. You got the Patriot Act, and they can start wiretapping Americans and blah blah blah. Oh, you think that's a coincidence? Knowing what I know now, I don't think it's a coincidence at all. Yeah. It seems to me it's part of their plan. So maybe that's when it all started happening. Well, at least no, not when they started, effing around with our freedoms, but when they decided, we really need to put the clamp down, put the kibosh on their ability to communicate. So it becomes the prisoner's dilemma. As it was a simpler time.
It was a simpler time, yeah.
It was a much simpler time. Was
it though? Well, here's the thing. Was it though? I mean, because we all thought it was a hard time until hindsight shows up. Was it a simpler time?
You always think it's because problems are relative.
I mean, look, you drive a in the 1800s, you drive a big old wagon across the plains and bust a wheel, and Indians
you had to be tough.
Native Americans or whatever you want to call them attack you.
Indians.
Was that a hard time? I mean, or a simpler time? Was it a simpler time when everybody carried a firearm and just shot you in the street? Well, I guess that happens now. Yeah.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's happening. Go to Chicago. You want to experience the Old West, go to Chicago.
I mean, those were some hard people. Don't get me wrong. My grandparents, great grandparents growing up, those people were hard, dude. I mean, their hands were all calloused up and they worked for what they had.
We had Valerie Bertinelli on the cover of, was it People magazine?
That's 80s, right?
Wearing underpants. That was what year was that?
Sure, that poster was in every kid's room.
It's not a poster. It's
an album cover. I get it, but
1979.
The Farrah Fawcett poster. You remember that one?
Oh yeah, that was 70s.
Oh yeah.
Boy, do I. Oh yeah, that was a hard one to miss. You know what I'm saying? But she posted this the other day on her Insta. She was 19 years old, and it was on People, the cover of People magazine, and I think the headline was is TV's hottest young star growing up too fast. She said, I mean, they weren't really wrong. Months later, I'd meet Ed and Eddie Van Halen. He got married and so forth. But that's racy.
That was racy. I mean, it was.
That was racy.
Showing that much leg and buttocks. Yeah.
When she's wearing jockey. Was it jockey underwear? What the hell was she even? Oh, that's ironic. Look at that. Look what pops up there as a pop-up. Got Jennifer Aniston that would have been really racy back then. But things just weren't so in your face. I think that's culturally, things weren't so in your face. And again, not being a prude myself, I mean, I wasn't necessarily opposed to it. Hell, I'd go as far as say I was in favor of it.
Come on, the best invention known to man in the 80s, Brad?
X-ray glasses?
Cable TV and HBO. Come on.
Old Spankavision?
Spankavision.
It wasn't HBO, it was Showtime.
Was it Showtime that was Fax or Skinamax?
I think Showtime.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Showtime was it? Which one was first?
I remember cable TV coming out going, "Oh my Lord!" Because even though you didn't have that little unit on the back of your cable box, you could still watch the dirty movies, even though the screen was messed up. Not that I ever did.
You're right. HBO 72, Showtime 76, Cinemax.
Dude, it was probably late 70s, early 80s before I ever saw my first HBO movie.
Brian Peck, Larry Peck's was his dad, and that was the house that we would go over, and that was where the test pilots.
Yeah, they would all show up over there. Yeah.
They'd all show, and they had HBO and a pool.
Yep.
And then Dodd lived across the street, and they had a hot tub. They had a pool and a hot tub, and then this was heaven. Next to Dodd were the
twins.
No. What was their name? Bob and Lorraine. He was a judge. She, the most important thing, she was the cheerleading mother.
Oh, Lord. So they all showed up at her house.
The cheerleaders would have their party, and they would all come over and sit in Dodd's parents' hot tub, which conveniently had a view from the master bedroom if you knew how to, move the shades just right. What the hell? Humphreys. Bob and Lorraine Humphreys. Man, those were the days. Those were the days. Didn't have a care in the world, but you thought you had the care in the world.
Those days were truly hard, weren't they, Brad?
They were tough. How were you going to get to where you were going on Friday nights? Who did you know that could buy you beer?
Mm-hmm.
And you always found a way. You will always, that's the thing about any of these regulations. It's always been this way. The stupid regulations that we talked about with the, if you need to present your ID now to show that you're 18 if you want to buy a sex toy online. It doesn't work. It's a stupid idea because it's not going to work. The market that you're looking to ban from buying something are the masters of figuring out how to get around it.
That's exactly right.
Always have been. The way that you control that sort of behavior is at home. It's the parents. That's what does it.
Gun control, cigarettes, drugs,
it all starts
sex.
At home.
All of those things people work around.
Starts at home. And until people wake up and realize that and stop depending on the government to be your parent, we're going to have these problems. But maybe, just maybe, in the end, we win.
What do you mean it's let's go?
Either way. Well, it depends on your viewpoint. That right there has been 2 hours of audio deliciousness known as The Daily Mojo for today, Freedom Friday, April the 11th, year of our Lord 2025. And we, as always, like to take a look at what people learned during the course of the previous 2 hours by going to the social media post of said people. We start over in the Rumble, as we always do, because it's easy. Roger Rabbit says, I miss when cable came through a coax in the wall.
Yeah.
Now all of ours is on fire sticks. Bring back the coax. Coax was far more dependable than Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because if you you had an air gap, you had an air gap. Plus, they could put the little filters up on the pole. If you're brave enough to climb the pole, you get the filter off.
Yep.
The good old days. John R. 1965. My TV would pick up HBO for free back then. See, because someone knew how to work around. Not My Dogs is when HBO came out. It started with a free week, and Sean Connery in A Man Who Would Be King was on. Lord have mercy. Missy 13 says used to be my profile pic on Facebook. What did? I remember when watching Trilogy of Terror. I know what she's talking about. Chickens, maybe. Over on the X DM, life wasn't easier back then. It was less complicated. There were fewer moving parts.
Yeah.
That's for certain.
Yeah.
Peekapool, the central time zone is the only one that matters to people who like being an hour slow. And block. Clock Tower Drunk. My grandpa used to tell me that the Republicans were always screwing up everything and then turned around and blamed it on the Democrats. I started listening to Rush Limbaugh at the tender age of 12.
There you go.
Rush was right. That's all I can tell you. And finally, over in the Daily Mojo chat room, where the hell did it go? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Dr. Zonos and Deb and Patrick G, all of y'all, thank you for being there. Appreciate each and every one of you, even Fancy One and Curious Creation. Remember, we the people must hang together, otherwise we shall surely hang separately. Sic semper tyrannis, resist stupid. And good night, Dr. Johnson.
Wherever you are, have a good weekend. See Brad in the morning.
Watch and listen at thedailymojo.com.